Okay, good evening everyone. Nice to see you all. Van and Dimitri, I thought you were living in Vietnam. You come from Vietnam, have you? Yeah, okay. Really? Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, so nice to see you all. I'm not sure who is here, but I can't see anything because I can just see a blur in the distance. So these are the reading glasses, and my other long distance is just as bad. I can just see the people in front. Ananda, I recognize Ananda. So that's great. Anyway, I'll get to know all of you as time goes by over the next 9 days. So it shouldn't be a problem. So, are you all ready? Yeah, has Lehar given you clear instructions? Yeah, okay, great. Usually pretty clear. So one of the things that is a bit problematic, I heard, is that we have one of the cottages had a leak or something like that, and so people couldn't really stay there. So some people had to double up. Is that right? Somebody had to double up? Okay, thank you so much for doing that. That's very, very, very kind of you. Because anicca usually strikes. The Buddha warned against this. Anicca always strikes, and so this is to be expected. So this is kind of what life is like, and this is kind of the first lesson. You come to the retreat center, expect things not to work out. Yeah, that's kind of the very first kind of lessons as you come here. And that's always very, very helpful. And one of the great things about remembering that things don't work out is that you let go a little bit. When you know that the world is always going to be uncertain and unreliable, that is where letting go happens. That's where you get the right values. That's where you kind of understand what actually matters, what is significant in life. And so it actually is very helpful. So if you thought the water leak was bad news, actually it's good news. It's all about how you look at things, how you use it. Yeah, that's kind of the important point here. To use it in the right way, it becomes positive. So that's wonderful. Where is Lehar here? Not sure. At the back. Okay. Is there anything I should say, Lehar? No? Okay. So I just go back to my cutie. Is that what you're saying? No, okay. No, just messing around. So okay. So let's get started. So I'm just going to talk some very simple things tonight, just to get us getting started on this retreat. You have no doubt all of you come from very busy lives, and it's kind of important to start in a very gentle way and kind of get going on this retreat, not to try too hard. Actually, you should never try too hard, but certainly not in the beginning when you need to just chillax and get used to the retreat center. So welcome to all the bhikkhunis, by the way. I haven't said that yet, so it's nice to have you all here. So that's great. The idea here, the basis of this retreat is the keeping of the 8 precepts. Are you all clear about that? Yeah? So this is kind of very useful because when you take that sila seriously on the path, it provides the foundation for meditation practice. There isn't really any meditation without sila. Yeah, sila is the morality and the kindness and these kind of things. And without that, meditation just doesn't work. And the more profound your sila is, the more profound, the more peaceful, and the more happy your meditation is going to be. These things are directly related to each other. In fact, the Buddha says in the sutas that the foundation for satipatthana, the foundation for any mindfulness, is sila and also right view. And I'll probably come back to this a lot during this meditation retreat. So this is why the 8 precepts matter so much. Another aspect of the 8 precepts is the idea of renunciation. Yeah, they have a renunciation aspect to them as well. The idea that you don't eat after noon, the idea that you don't beautify yourself, you just wear simple clothes. One of the great things about being on a meditation retreat is that you can kind of fade away. Yeah, you don't have to be anybody. Isn't that great? Usually we have to be somebody in the world. Yeah, you have to look right, you have to kind of present yourself in the right way, all these kind of things. And here you don't have to be anyone. In fact, the less of a person you are, the better on this retreat. So please just fade away here. Be nobody here. Be nobody going nowhere. There's actually a book. You know that book? There's a book called that, Being Nobody Going Nowhere. I think it's Ayakema's actually book. And it's a nice title, actually, come to think of it now. So it is, so to kind of try to emulate that Ayakema saying, being nobody going nowhere. Fade away here. You are not in this retreat, you can be nobody. What a wonderful thing it is to be nobody. Nothing to prove, nobody to be. And that is very much what this restraint part of things is about. Not wearing any kind of fancy clothes or anything, just whatever is comfortable, and that kind of takes away a bit of the sense of self and a bit of self-concern, and a bit of of the self basically kind of fades away a little bit. So once you have that as the foundation, then the meditation can kind of begin. And so I will talk a little bit about meditation. But before I do that, I will give you some idea as well about the idea of sutas and meditation retreat. Is anyone who has come for my meditation retreat for the first time? Never been on this before? 1, 2, 3, there's a few of you. Okay, great, welcome. That's good, it's nice to have, always a few newcomers, which is great. So the idea with this kind of retreat is not that the teachings are going to be anything kind of unusual, it's not going to be kind of radically different from any other retreats, but the idea is to draw inspiration from the suttas, from the word of the Buddha, rather than just kind of giving talks which are, of course, related to the suttas, but not directly derived from them. And I think you will find as we go along that the suttas have a lot to say, obviously, about how we meditate, how we think in spiritual terms, and how the path develops from that. And as you listen to the suttas, hopefully you will feel some inspiration. And as you are inspired by the suttas, your meditation becomes more profound. Meditation becomes more profound, you understand the suttas deeper. When you understand the suttas deeper, you become even more inspired. And then even more profound, more inspired, more profound. It kind of goes hand in hand like this until one day, you can imagine where it goes, right? One day it's like, wow, this is really, really good fun. You're really enjoying yourself. And so that is the idea, because too often in the Buddhist world, we don't focus enough on the source of where all of Buddhism actually comes from. It comes from this historical figure called the Buddha, and because it comes from the Buddha, it is useful to know what the Buddha was talking about. Everything else in Buddhism makes sense only insofar as it relates to the word of the Buddha. So if everything only makes sense insofar as it relates to the word of the Buddha, it's very useful to know how the Buddha taught, what the Buddha, how he presented these things. So this is kind of the idea behind this. So suttas and the word of the Buddha. Of course, the reality is going to be a lot of commentary from me. I'm not going to just read the suttas to you. I'm going to talk about them and kind of try to make them come alive. That's kind of the purpose of this. So there's going to be lots of commentary. So whenever you hear commentary, be skeptical. Whenever you hear the sutta, okay, that's where you place your faith. So this is the idea behind this. So today, being the first day, I just want to talk a little bit about the foundations and basis for meditation practice and how to kind of get started with this whole retreat. And of course, when you start out, if you come from a very busy life, which I'm sure many of you do, you need to really chillax a little bit the first day or two. You don't know how long it's going to take for really relaxing. It may take a while, it may take a couple of days, so just take whatever time you need to really relax. This is just very important. And what that means is that you come and go to the meditation hall basically as you like. I remember many years ago I heard Ajahn Brahmali say this, and I thought it was such a good saying. I repeat it on every retreat. Ajahn Brahmali said there's only 2 things that are obligatory on these meditation retreats. Those 2 things are breakfast and lunch. Everything else is voluntary here. Isn't that kind of nice? So come for breakfast and lunch. That's really important. That's incredibly important. Everything else, not so important. It kind of turns it upside down, right? What do you mean breakfast and lunch are important? Well, this tells you a little bit about how meditation works. You have to have a sense of enjoyment. And initially, when you start out, that enjoyment may not be so great because you're just learning to relax. And so then you do those things that guaranteed, bring you a little bit of happiness. Having a nice meal, having a nice breakfast. That always brings a little bit of happiness, right? To everyone. If you know Ajahn Brahmali, he is a super duper meditator. He also enjoys his meals. So it is okay. There's no contradiction between the two. And that is kind of the important point here. So do go be gentle with yourself. Know to pace yourself in a good way. Do have breakfast, lunch. Don't try to be super ascetic on this retreat. Come to the meditation hall, sit for a while, see how the meditation goes. Don't think that you have to sit for a huge amount of hours, otherwise you don't get your money's worth. Actually, it's the wrong way of thinking. If you want your money's worth, sit the right amount, not the maximum amount. Know what works for you. And if you feel fed up, then do something else. There's no point in sitting here and kind of suffering away. It's only destructive. And it doesn't lead to any kind of long-term happiness with meditation if you kind of do it in a destructive fashion. So do what is enjoyable, what works for you. But of course, also at the same time, be very sensitive to the people around you. So be gentle when you come in here. Sit down carefully, make the minimum amount of noise. And be like a ghost, No one can tell the difference between you and a ghost. Then you're on the right track. So, but please don't scare anyone, because that's kind of that's also bad. So this is kind of the right kind of attitude to have. And then when you sit down and you come in here, or you sit down in your room, or whatever it is that you do, then always remember that what is important in terms of sitting down, especially when you start out, is to be comfortable and to be at ease. This is incredibly important in meditation. So sit in whatever posture works for you. Use these wonderful chairs that we have. I think they are good meditation chairs, so use them. Sit against the wall, lean against the wall if you want to. You can certainly sit on the floor if you want to. Use as many cushions as you like. Sometimes I've seen people with huge amounts of cushions. And that's okay, like cushions all the way around, and that's okay. Please use that, and use whatever it is that you require for these things. If you sit with too much pain and too much discomfort, it's going to be damaging and destructive for the meditation. And the reason is because if you feel pain in the body, then usually the mind is not soft, the mind isn't gentle. You lose your sense of kindness. There's a certain harshness and hardness in the mind if you have too much pain. It's as if you're not kind to yourself. But if you feel happiness with the meditation, if you feel at ease, if you feel that it is fun, you are enjoying yourself, it's delightful, you're enjoying the good company, enjoying the sutas, everything is just wonderful, yay! Then you relax, because it's like you're kind to yourself, you're feeling that you are giving something really beautiful to yourself. Then the mind becomes soft, you feel gentle inside, and it is that soft, gentle, kind, caring, compassionate, empathetic mind. That is the mind that actually takes you into meditation. That is the one that works. So it's important to feel that you are looking after yourself. And if you are hard on yourself and you're feeling lots of pain, you're not really looking after yourself. So look after yourself. And by looking after yourself, you also look after other people at the same time. You will kind of work together in this way. So please don't sit with pain. I think this is one of the biggest mistakes often done in meditation circles. The people think that sitting with pain is some kind of sign that you are a super yogi. And sitting with pain can be okay occasionally. For example, you will notice that pains come and go in the body, and sometimes you have to kind of just observe and be with it for a short period of time, and that is okay. But if the pain is there, kind of recurring, and you can feel that your mind is kind of getting obsessed with the pain, you can't really deal with it, whatever, then there's time to make a change. And the first change to make is just to shift your posture a little bit. Just move a little bit. So perfectly okay to move. If that doesn't work, then change your posture completely. Move from the floor onto a chair. Move against sitting against the wall or whatever. And if that doesn't work, then try a third posture. You can even possibly, if you wish, you can also lie down. Some people lie down when they meditate. That might be best to do back in your room. Maybe. You can maybe also do it here. I don't know. Sometimes people do that, and it's okay if you are kind of at the back or in the side rooms or whatever. All of these things are acceptable. The most important thing is that you are at ease. You don't have that kind of discomfort which destroys the whole thing here. So this is how you start out, yeah? And in the Buddhist world again, this is a problematic that people use this too much, the idea with pain. Once you have really good mindfulness, your mind is really strong and really powerful, then sometimes what you can do is you can stay with the pain and see what happens. But you have to have really good mindfulness first of all, yeah? Even some degree of samadhi, and then the pain will not be so disruptive. But even then, I wouldn't really recommend it. Even then, it's going to usually not be helpful at all. So a little bit of pain is okay because it's part of the course. But please don't overdo it, yeah? Just a tiny little bit, and if it lasts for too long, then make a change. Do go in a different direction. And this is, of course, straight from the suttas. This is how the Buddha taught. This is the idea of the middle way. The middle way is to get away from the attakilamatanu yoga, the torment of the body, on the one hand, and on the other hand, the sukhalika, the pleasure of the five senses, kama sukha, basically. And so these are the two things. This is kind of the middle way. So we want to avoid the kind of tormenting of the body. It's kind of fundamental to the Buddhist path and the way the Buddha taught this taught meditation practice. So yeah, this is kind of the beginning. And be careful, because it's very easy for the human mind to go there. It's very easy to think that, experiencing pain is a positive thing, no pain, no gain kind of thing. There is a nice sutta, the Bodhiraja Kumara Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya 85, where the Buddha says that, this Prince Bodhi says to the Buddha that there is no happiness to be found without pain. Yeah? And then the Buddha says, well, that's what I thought too, before my awakening. You don't get any happiness without pain. Yeah? So this was kind of a wrong view. And so the Buddha then sets out a path which is almost exactly the opposite of that. And it is a path of gradually increasing kinds of happinesses. The happiness that you gain from good conduct is the foundation of this. And then kind of higher and higher happinesses as you move through the various stages of meditation. Yeah, so it's kind of, Buddhism is almost opposite. It's like happiness gives rise to a higher kind of happiness, stage by stage by stage. And this is the right way to think about meditation practice. And it's quite a radical worldview, and it goes very much against how we often think as human beings. Yeah, this kind of no pain, no gain idea is a very common thing, I think, almost everywhere around the world. It seems to be kind of deeply embedded in human psychology. But from Buddhist point of view, actually, it is not really right. There are certain pains that we have to endure. For example, if you like to do bad things, you have to endure the pain of restraining yourself from doing bad things. That is the kind of pain we should endure in Buddhism. Yeah? So if you want to use bad speech, then you have to restrain yourself. There's a little bit of pain in that, because often we just want to blurt things out. But that is a good kind of pain. So there are some good kinds of pain, but not the physical pain in the body. Yeah. So that is the beginning. Yeah? And once you kind of understand that, you understand how to deal with the physical body, then the next stage is to learn how to relax. So what is relaxation? And relaxation is really letting go. Yeah, the reason why you are not relaxed is because you're holding on somehow. You're using kind of your willpower. It's like when you go to work and you try really hard and you have to concentrate all day. You're forcing your mind onto what you're doing. And then you get tense after a while. You can't really relax anymore. So the fact that you are not relaxed means that you're not letting go. And so relaxation and letting go are really two sides of the same coin. So if you're able to relax, it means you're already letting go. It's kind of interesting, because we think that letting go is this incredibly profound and difficult thing. But really, it means just relaxing. Yeah, that's what it means. And if you hear someone who is a really good meditator describe how meditation works, it's really just stage by stage, deeper and deeper relaxation. That's what it is. You sit back, you relax, and you just wait. And because your mindfulness is very strong, it kind of goes deeper and deeper and deeper by itself. And so sometimes I would recommend you to don't use the wrong kind of vocabulary here. Sometimes you may think of the word meditation, and the word meditation will conjure up certain ideas about what you're supposed to do. It means sitting straight. It means watching the breath. Okay, watch the breath. Yeah, and so you have a very clear, and that will have a subconscious effect on you when you then sit down, because that idea, I'm meditating now, yeah, and then you have some idea of what that you have to do. So forget about the word meditation. Try some other words. Try the word relaxation. I've come here for 9 days of relaxation. Yeah, and that kind of gives a very different idea about what you're supposed to do here. So come to relax. Yeah, come to just have a good time. Come to eat lunch. Yeah, whatever it is. And then, as you think about it in that way, just relaxing, it gives you a different kind of attitude to what you're supposed to do. So, but when you relax, relax in the right way here. Sometimes people say, sit down, and they say, okay, relax. Relax. Come on, relax. That already is kind of getting it wrong, right? Because again, you're not really relaxing. You're trying to do the relaxing. You're trying to force yourself to relax. And so learning how to relax in the right way is also incredibly important. And some people, they tell me that meditating took them 20 years to really learn how to relax properly in meditation. So please don't please don't take 20 years before you learn how to relax properly, because that is, that is supposed to be kind of Buddhism 101, learning how to relax. So I'm going to give you some ideas on how to relax, what it means to really relax, what it means to do nothing, and then you can kind of see how this progresses. So one way that I like to talk about this is relaxing is the thing that you do when you come back home after a long day's work and you are kind of tired and you just want to sit down in a favorite armchair, or maybe you want to lie down on your bed for a while. So what is it that you do when you sit down after a long day's work? When you sit down in that armchair because you're exhausted, what do you do at that time? Do you say, relax, relax? You don't, right? You just sit there and you just wait, and you don't do anything at all. That's at least what I used to do. I don't know what you are doing when you do these things. Yeah, so it's just sitting back and just waiting, and just allowing the mind to kind of unwind. The mind has been, wound up over a long day. There's a lot of stress there, and now you just allow the mind to be here, just as it wants to be. And if the mind wants to think, you allow it to think. If the mind is tired, you allow it to be tired. And you don't do anything, and you just kind of wait for the energy to come back because you are exhausted. And of course, what you find if you do that sort of thing is that the energy does come back. And then when the energy comes back, you get up, and then you do various things. And that's where the difference between meditation and resting is, that when you start to feel the energy coming back, you don't get up and you don't go away, you carry on at that particular point. But it gives you an idea what it means to relax. It means just sitting back and allowing things to be here. And especially for the first day or two, this is really important, so that you can allow the mind to really calm down and be in this natural state as possible. And then this will happen. And then as you go through this progress of just sitting in your armchair, there comes a point when you progress, and the progression goes from the armchair to the watching the sunset. This is the second one. So after a while, you kind of gain some energy back in the mind. Now you're ready to watch the sunset. So what do you do when you watch the sunset? Do you say kind of, oh, watch the sunset, watch the sunset? Yeah, no one does that. If you watch the sunset, you sit back. And you just enjoy, and you see the sun going down, and it's beautiful. The initial tiredness has been let go by sitting in that armchair, and now you move on to the sunset. You have a degree of clarity. You're able to enjoy what is going on, and you just stay with that sunset. And the point of this simile is that the sunset is also beautiful, Yeah, so once the meditation goes beyond the initial tiredness of the mind, you start to feel energized, and your experience is much more positive. And so you start enjoying the experience as well as just relaxing and watching what is going on. So these are the two kind of critical things in meditation. On the one hand, the letting go, which here is basically about relaxing, letting go, letting go, letting go. And on the other hand, the learning to enjoy what is happening, the enjoyment of the meditation. And when these two things come together, that is where meditation works. And you see this kind of throughout the suttas. You see, on the one hand, you see the tranquility, the deepening of the peace, the deepening of the just being really calm and peaceful, deeper and deeper and deeper. That comes from letting go. And on the other hand, you see the happiness, the joy and all the various kinds of happiness kind of increasing and increasing. These are the two factors that you want to work in harmony. And you want to kind of do that from the very beginning. From the very beginning, you want to enjoy what you're doing. Sitting there, relaxing, enjoying what is happening, building this up stage by stage by stage in this particular way. And then the meditation kind of works gradually, gradually, gradually. So this is how you kind of get started. And it doesn't really matter what kind of meditation you ultimately want to do, whether you want to do metta meditation or mindfulness or breathing, or you want to do contemplating the body, or you want to do death contemplation, or whatever it is. All of these things kind of require this kind of similar kind of foundation for yourself. And as you do this, then and as you carry on with kind of just learning to relax, learning to let things be, then you will, of course, come across various kind of obstacles. And the two kind of most typical obstacles in meditation, the first one is tiredness, sloth and torpor, and the other one, actually sloth and torpor, or lethargy and tiredness maybe, something like that. And the other one is the restlessness of the mind that wants to do all kind of things, think about this and that. So you come to a certain point, and then the mind is kind of, okay, now I got the energy back, now is the time to solve all the problems in the world, and kind of fix things up, because the mind starts to feel powerful, and you kind of think that now I can solve problems in the world. And so this is the next thing then, to know what to do when these things happen. And with the tiredness of the mind, if that happens, especially at the beginning of the retreat, the trick is to allow it to be here. Don't try to force it one way or the other. Just go with the flow, go with the tiredness. Don't think that you can sort it out, because often the mind just needs to re-energize itself, and it will do that quite naturally if you allow it to be here. So just go with it. And if you fall asleep, that is okay. And you go back to QT. Hopefully the first couple of nights you'll have good rests. You will sleep really well, and then the energy will kind of return. And so maybe by Sunday at least, or maybe even by Monday, the energy will re-arise. This is the first way to overcome the tiredness of the mind. The other way is to inspire yourself, to understand, to see the joy on the path, to see the positive aspect of being here. And I really recommend you to try to develop that positive aspect of what is going on, because that will bring the energy into the mind. And there's many ways of doing that. One of the important ways that I always recommend people on these retreats is to develop a sense of metta towards everyone who is here. Because on a retreat like this with 60 people or whatever, there's a lot of people around, and it's very easy to irritate each other a little bit. I always like to say that we are all irritating here. We all irritate each other, and that's just the way things are. We cannot avoid being a bit irritating. That's just the nature of being a human being. And so have that sense of metta for everyone. Look at these people around you, or you don't need to look at them, think about them. And as you think about them, remember that these are all good people who are here. No one comes on a 9-day retreat, voluntarily take the 8 precepts, and they are a bad person. Why would anyone want to come if they were a truly bad person? Usually I ask at this stage how many bad people, and usually no one lifts their hand. So I always get proven right that there's no bad people on these retreats. So these are really good people. But because we are different, and because we perceive the world differently, and because we think slightly differently, we often end up kind of someone is a bit too loud, someone does this, someone does that, and it irritates you or whatever. Never allow those thoughts to arise. Always build up this idea in your mind that these are really good people who are here. Otherwise, again, they wouldn't be here. And so see that, and you can do that in many different ways. You can go back to your room before you go to sleep at night, and you can kind of imagine all the people here, and you can kind of see them, see the goodness in these people, like there's an image of everyone here at Jhana Grove, or you can do it for the whole world or whatever. This experience of seeing good people. And when you see them as good people, they are very, very likely to irritate you in any way whatsoever. And this is like, in any case, it's the beginning of Metta. Metta begins by seeing the goodness in people around you. So we'll maybe do some Metta meditation later on, but this is like the starting point, understanding the positive things. So do that, and if you do that, the retreat here is going to be much more smooth for you as well, because you will kind of flow through the day. There will be no kind of sense of these sort of obstacles or hindrances arising within you. And that will be incredibly useful for the 9 days. So this is one way of doing this, kind of building up a positive perception. Another way is to do also a more regular Metta meditation as you are here. Do a little bit of Metta every day. In the morning we'll be chanting the Metta Sutta that will give you some basic guidance on what Metta really is about, how to think about things. But do some Metta meditation every day here, building up that positive sense inside of you, and then wishing everyone well. Whether it's the people here, whether it's the people of the Buddhist society, whether it's all the Buddhists in the world, whether it's the people in another direction, however you do it, you can build up the feeling of Metta. And then that adds a very positive thing to the path, to the practice here. Then there is the idea of gratitude. I don't know if you're able to have some gratitude for things, and gratitude is a very positive force. And have sometimes when you sit down to meditate, before you do that, have a sense of gratitude for what is going on. Have a sense of gratitude for the fact that you are able to be here. It's actually very difficult to be in a place like this. This place like Jhana Grove is very rare in the world. It's very hard to find this kind of meditation centers. This is, first of all, it is secluded, it is peaceful, it is really good facilities that we have here. You usually get reasonably good teachings while you're here, for most of the teachers that come here. It has kind of all of these factors coming together, and it is, of course, because many people have put in really hard work to make this happen. Most of all Ajahn Brahmali, but also all the other people who run this place and keep it going, and everyone coming together. And also ultimately have a sense of gratitude to yourself, for taking yourself here, for doing something really worthwhile, something really powerful, something that actually brings your own life, adds value to your own life, but also adds value really to the whole world by doing this thing in a positive way. So that sense of gratitude tends to overcome all the kind of negative feelings, and kind of lets go of negativity. And that becomes a very powerful foundation for meditation practice. Also, one of the other things that you can contemplate as we go through this retreat are things, inspiration in the suttas. So you can reflect on some of the things we have been talking about, and as you reflect on the Dhamma, you can kind of lean your mind in that direction, and you can feel a sense of gratitude even to the Buddha. The Buddha gave us these teachings. What an amazing thing it is that someone spent their whole life just teaching others. Why? Out of compassion. For no other reason. Isn't that amazing that there was a person who existed 2,500 years ago? He didn't really want to teach anyone. He knew it was going to be really painful and really troublesome, and still he did it. Is that kind of awesome? And it wasn't just anyone. It was like the wisest person in human history. It was someone extraordinary, and he decided that, no, I'm not just going to go into the caves. I'm not just going to retire into the forest. I'm not just going to be the sage on the mountaintop practicing jhana all the time. I'm going to go back into the world and teach other people the Dhamma, even though it is going to be painful, even though I know it's going to be difficult, even though I know that people are going to argue with me. Yeah, still I'm going to do it. And of course, that's exactly what happens. People would argue with the Buddha, and the Buddha probably wanted to retire sometimes to the mountaintop, but he didn't. He carried on teaching, knowing that some people would listen. And so this is your teacher. Your teacher is the greatest sage, the wisest person in human history, who taught purely out of compassion for no other reason. And that's kind of amazing. That is your teacher. That is my teacher. It is our teacher. It is not just some, this is not some small thing. It's a really, really major issue. And allow that to inspire you. Feel a sense of gratitude towards that. Allow that to bring up joy when you think about that. And that Dhamma is still alive in the present day. When you see someone, I have had Ajahn Brahmali as my teacher now for 30 years. I've been living at Bodhinyana for 30 years. Can't really believe it, but apparently it's true. Yeah, I came in 1994, so it must be 30 years then, 31 years soon. And yeah, people like Ajahn Brahm are in the world. I've lived with Ajahn Brahm for 30 years, and they say that familiarity breeds contempt. But actually, I never really felt any contempt towards Ajahn Brahm. And this is kind of the thing, when you find someone who is really worthy of respect, that contempt isn't really necessary. It doesn't really arise in the same way. And so instead, you kind of have an appreciation. And even more and more as time goes on, I have more and more appreciation, I think, of someone like Ajahn Brahm. Yeah, there are still beings in this world who practice these teachings fully, who are still out there teaching and living this life to the full. Wow, this teaching is still going on to the present day. And now, all of us here, we are trying also to walk in the footsteps of those great beings that are leading the way. It's kind of really inspiring. Yeah, you are doing the same thing. Maybe you don't think that you are anything special, but that's a good starting point. It's a good starting point not to think you're anything special, yeah? Because when you don't think you're anything special, maybe you are something special. That's how you become special. If you think you're too special already, then the chances of becoming special are very small, yeah? Because you are already heading in the wrong direction. So all of these things are ways of giving rise to positive feelings. I'm going to talk more about these things as we go along, because these are really important. And also, one of the classic things they talk about in the sutta is what they call sila nusati, the recollection of your kindness, yeah, your virtue, if you like, and just that memory, yeah, the knowledge that you're living a good life. Yeah, that kind of peaceful feeling inside, the feeling of goodness, because you know that you are a good person. This is not some ego-boosting thing at all. It's just a peaceful feeling, the knowledge that you're living a good life. It's a beautiful feeling if you can tap into that. And it lifts you up, and it makes you inspired to do your meditation practice. So all of these things come together, and these things, they boost your energy, they give a brightness of the mind, and they overcome any tiredness that you may have, and they give that energy to you if you're able to do this in the right way. There's also the other side, as I mentioned before, and that is the kind of restlessness side, where the mind wants to think about all kinds of things, and that is also something that is very, we are here to overcome. And one of the ways of overcoming the thinking mind is actually to do mindfulness of breathing. Mindfulness of breathing is specifically said in the suttas to overcome thinking. But mindfulness of breathing is also quite profound. It takes a while before you can really do it fully. And so it really concerns more the refined kind of thoughts. Initially, the thinking mind has to be overcome in different ways, not really through that kind of watching the breath, because you're not really ready to watch the breath yet. And so one of the there's a number of ways of overcoming the thinking mind. One of the ways is actually just to find joy in the meditation, because finding joy, like I just talked about now, actually makes that more interesting than thinking. You need something more interesting in your life, and that is the joy and the happiness and the peace and the calm and the freedom and all the positive things that you find in meditation practice. But another way of doing this is to actually value the right things. Yeah, I mentioned before that the two supports of mindfulness are sila, morality on the one hand, because the sila is kind of what leads to pamudja, it leads to the gladness at the beginning of the path. But the other one is the right view, the ujjukaditti. And that right view really is about valuing the right things in life. Often wrong view means that we value worldly things. Right view actually means that you value spiritual things. So you need to kind of get your mind around what really is important in the world, what actually matters in life, what is it that's going to give you long-term benefit, long-term happiness. Is it pursuing things in the world, or is it pursuing things on the spiritual path? And the answer, of course, is it is the spiritual path that leads to real contentment, real happiness, and really positive things, not pursuing things in the world. And this is really right view. Understanding the dangers of the world, understanding the limitations of the world, understanding the uncertainties of the world, understanding that cottage 4 is always going to break down. There's always going to be floods in cottage 4. And if there's not a cottage 4, it's a miracle it isn't happening in all the cottages. Imagine we all had to sleep in the meditation hall tonight. We are fortunate that's not going to happen. So praise, it's kind of a miracle that not every cottage is flooded sometimes. And so you understand the world. This is the nature of the world. And the more you understand the nature of the world, the more you seek refuge in a different place. And seeking refuge in a different place, that is what it means to have different kind of values. The values are the spiritual life, because that is where you find that freedom from those terrible uncertainties of the world. We think the world is under control. We think that our lives are kind of running smoothly, but we don't see all of those causes under the surface waiting to break through and shatter the world that we know. Cause little earthquakes in our lives. People dying, volcanoes bursting. I'm not sure if there are many volcanoes here in Perth, but but whatever it is, the equivalent to a volcano, whatever that might be in Perth. And there's always kind of things happening under the surface, and suddenly they break through, and then we are shocked when we shouldn't be shocked. Why? Because the Buddha told us everything is so uncertain. Uncertainty is very scary. And one of the reasons why we're not more committed to the spiritual path is we haven't taken on board fully the idea of anicca, of uncertainty, of unreliability, how unreliable it actually is. The more you understand this, the more powerful, the more important the spiritual path becomes, because you start to seek that refuge in the right place. And then you stop thinking about worldly things. And when you stop thinking about worldly things, there isn't much left to think about. Then you stop thinking pretty much altogether, because the worldly things are basically what kind of the mind tends to revolve around. And so you stop thinking. Unless you are really miserable and sad. If you're miserable, you might carry on thinking about anything. That just so that you can think. Ajahn Brahmali told me the story. Apparently there was a man here at Jhana Grove. He did a retreat with Ajahn Brahmali, and he was an obsessive thinker. He was thinking and thinking and thinking, and he wrote this question one evening, and he said that, I've been thinking about everything. It was coming to the end of the retreat. He had been thinking throughout the retreat. I've been thinking about every conceivable thought. And this afternoon, I didn't really know what to think about anymore. And so my mind it started thinking about the washing that I had done in the afternoon. He had washed his shirt or something like that. I don't know exactly. Washed his shirt, and he had hung the shirt on the line. And because there wasn't anything else to think about, he was thinking about the optimal way of hanging the shirt on the line. So it would dry the fast. Was it this way up, this way around, front to the back? And this is kind of where the mind goes. So there is this balance here between, on the one hand, understanding why the worldly things are not really interesting on the one hand, and on the other hand, finding the happiness in meditation. And when these things come together, it becomes very powerful. And that is really where the thinking mind stops, because you understand that these things are not really worthwhile thinking about. So by thinking about things in this way, or by not thinking about things in this way rather, but just knowing that this is the way to go, don't think about it, just do it. So then, these kind of big problems in meditation, they start to fade, and they start not to be important anymore, and they kind of disappear by the wayside, and you start to enjoy what is going on. And then when you start to enjoy what is going on, mindfulness starts to arise. And when mindfulness starts to arise, you can feel that the mind is becoming more peaceful. You feel that there is a certain energy there. You feel that you have an awareness of what is going on. And you will find that suddenly the breath is also present. One of the kind of, again, beautiful ways of thinking about breath meditation is not that you do the breath meditation. It's not that you go to the breath and now I will do breath meditation, but more like you wait. You are patient. You use all of these little things that I've been talking about, just gently nudging your mind in the right direction. And then when mindfulness is there, the breath is also present, because when mindfulness is there, the breath is obviously one of the aspects that is available to us. And so suddenly the breath is just there. You are doing mindfulness or breathing. That is the right way of doing it. Waiting for the breath to come to you rather than you going to the breath. And then it becomes kind of easy. There is no sense of tension. There's no sense of you doing it. Because as long as you are doing it, as long as you are trying to watch the breath, there will be a little bit of tension there. There will be a little bit of discomfort. And that discomfort is not going to be conducive to taking it deeper, because there's a sense again that you are not really kind to yourself. If you are forcing yourself to live with discomfort, then there is that sense that you're not really caring, you're not really gentle, you're not really doing things in the right way. And so when the breath finally comes, try to again see the positive side of the breath. The breath, when it is easy, when it's natural, is a very beautiful and delightful thing. It is very kind of smooth, it is peaceful, it has a kind of silky feeling maybe to it. It is kind of this kind of beautiful rhythm of going in and going out, and just staying with the rhythm, almost like the waves of the ocean hitting against the shore in a kind of natural rhythm, but peaceful. Delightful at the same time. So see the delight in the breath. See the beautiful aspect of the breath. This is one way of thinking about the breath when you come to the breath. The other way is to not to think of the breath as your breath. This is my breath and I can control it. Rather think of the breath as just a natural phenomenon. It is a phenomenon in the world, just as if I mentioned before, you're watching a sunset or you're hearing the wind in the trees. The wind and the breath are kind of similar in a certain way. But when you hear the wind in the trees, you don't think you're going to control the wind. It's just the wind. Of course you can't control the wind. And so think of the breath a little bit like the wind in the trees. It is something that is not really yours. You're just aware of this phenomenon. It's a phenomenon that has its own natural rhythm. The body does the breathing. You don't have to do anything with it. And you are just aware of what the body is doing. You allow the body to do this, and you are with the breath. So something that you have a certain distance to. Something that you don't control, something where you are standing back, observing from far away, like the wind or something like that, and then also seeing the beauty of it at the same time. What that means is that sometimes you will lose the breath because you're not holding on. It means that sometimes the breath will just go and your mind will go somewhere else. And when your mind goes somewhere else, don't go back to the breath. Don't say, I will catch the breath again, but again, wait for the breath to return. Okay, I'm thinking now. It's okay, I can think. But the moment you become aware of your thinking, the thoughts are already going to disappear, because the thoughts don't like that you are aware of them. And so when you start to see the thinking mind and you don't want to be there, it kind of gradually kind of calms down. And then the breath returns all by itself. and then you're doing the mindfulness of breathing again. If you do it in this way, it will be very pleasant. You're going to enjoy the meditation practice if you do it in this way. It is not going to be something where you feel that you are the driver, you are the passenger all along. You are looking out the window, aware of what is happening. You're not in the driver's seat. You're not in charge of what is going on. You're merely observing, not controlling anything at all. This is the ideal way of doing breath meditation. And you will find that it is not always easy. You will find that the doer gets in there and tries to do the meditation, because we are compulsive doers. We have been taught our whole life that we should do things, we should be in charge, we need to try, we need to do things. So now we are moving in the opposite direction. Actually, the idea of just being and not doing is a far more natural way of existing. It is very natural. It's just very enjoyable, sitting back, just being with things. And after a while, when you get used to it, it's actually far more pleasant, far more enjoyable than all this doing in life. And you stop wanting to do so much. And instead, you just want to relax, you just want to be, and you want to enjoy what is going on. And if you can do this much in your meditation, if you're able to even get to that point where you can just sit back and just enjoy and see the beauty of the breath, and just kind of stay with that, then already you're doing really, really well. And then, of course, beyond that, if you get to that point, you just have to stay with that. And as you stay with that and stay with that, the longer you stay with it, the deeper it will go. But again, all it is, it's just this ability to be aware without being involved. That is really the whole process of meditation. That is what it comes to. And the hardest part is really in the beginning, the allowing sufficient mindfulness and having the right kind of values, where you value the breath, because the breath is really what the spiritual path, the large part of the spiritual path is about, the ability to watch the breath. So, to complement the breath meditation, as I mentioned before, I would also suggest that you do a little bit of Metta meditation. It's a very, very good complement to the breath meditation. And especially in the beginning of the retreat, you may find that you will need to calm down. And sometimes the Metta meditation is a little bit more activity. And for people who kind of find it hard to just sit with the breath, that can be very useful to do some Metta meditation. And if you're going to do Metta meditation, just do it very, very simply. And I will just give some very, very brief instructions now for how to get the most out of Metta meditation. The first thing is to give rise to the right kind of perception. Don't just sit down straight away and say, may so-and-so be happy and well, or may all beings be happy and well. Start out by giving rise, first of all, to a positive perception. And that positive perception is a good feeling, a sense of goodwill towards people. And you can do that towards anyone who you feel it's easy to have goodwill towards. So for what I sometimes do, when I go to my kuti and I sit down, I close my eyes, I just spread goodwill to all my fellow monks. I kind of visualize all the fellow monks sitting together in the Dana Sala at Bodhidharma Monastery, and I know they're all good people. They're not perfect, but they are good people. And so it's quite easy to see the goodness in these people. So I just see the goodness in my fellow monks, and I build up that sense of goodwill towards them. And that gives, straight away, it gives rise to a positive feeling. You have this feeling of people who are worthy of kindness, worthy of your well-wishing. And so do the same kind of thing. You can do that towards individuals. You can do it towards groups of people. You can do it towards directions, not towards anyone specific, but towards another direction or whatever. Or you can even do it to the whole world. It doesn't matter so much, as long as you have that positive perception. So build that up first of all. Remember the good qualities of these people. Remember that they are well-intended. They are trying their very best. And that is worthy of a lot of respect. It doesn't matter how bad you are, as long as you're trying your best. Because sometimes we had unfortunate backgrounds, unfortunate circumstances, and that makes it very difficult sometimes to be a super-duper nice person. but at least they're trying, and that is really worthy of respect. And once you build up that sense of goodwill, one of the translations of metta is precisely goodwill, then you can sit down and you can spread and you can wish them well, may you be well and happy, and you can see how that builds up from that. You can also just spend the whole time just building up the perception of people in your mind, having goodwill towards them, seeing them in your mind's eye, remembering it as a good people, seeing them in a positive way, reminding yourself of the good qualities that are there. And this, you can do that on the walking path, for example, while you walk back and forth. That will then feed into your meditation when you sit down. And then this whole process will become more effective as a consequence. So you think good thoughts, and from the thinking of good thoughts comes your ability to do the metta meditation. It's always in that kind of sequence. So these are just some very basic ideas about meditation. I would also recommend you to do walking meditation as well. Walking meditation, again, it can be done in a large number of ways. You can do metta while you do walk meditation. You can contemplate the sutas. You can do death contemplation. I would not recommend doing breath meditation while walking, but you can focus on other things like the touching of the feet on the ground. You can also just walk back and forth without doing anything at all, just enjoying the peace. That is also perfectly acceptable. And then as you do that, gradually you feel, you kind of help yourself to get the mind ready for sitting down later on. The kind of two supporting each other in this way. That's what I would recommend to you to do sometimes. It's good to get a bit of exercise, walking a bit back and forth, and so that is good. The Buddha actually allowed, you know that? The Buddha allowed walking meditation paths for monks, and nuns presumably as well. Why? Because it was good for the health. It was a health thing. That's what he said. He allowed two things for monks for good health. One was sauna, the other one was walking paths. Anyway, in case you're interested, so that's just additional information, superfluous to the talk, but anyway, additional information for you. So that is all I'm going to say for now. There is much, much more to be said about meditation practice, but this is kind of a good starting point. And we will be doing some guided meditations every day. There's some simple guided meditations, and if you want to come to those, you're very welcome to do so. And if you don't want to come to those, that's also, of course, perfectly fine. Entirely up to you what you prefer. And if you do have questions about meditation, there will be Q&A sessions in the evening, so please write it down. And you can also come and talk if you want to have an interview, you can come and we can discuss meditation practice, whatever you want to talk about during the interviews as well. So that is really it. An hour has gone by already. So I wish you a super duper retreat. Excellent, marvelous, wonderful retreat with lots of happiness, lots of joy. Please pace yourself, be wise, be smart. Don't allow yourself to be frustrated. If you get really frustrated, just go back to your bed and lie down until the frustration is gone. That's often the best way to overcome frustration. So that is it for tonight. So I wish you all a wonderful night's sleep, and we'll see you back again tomorrow morning at around 6 o'clock or whatever. Okay, so let's just finish off the day by doing the Arahang Samma Sambuddha together. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Svakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami